everyone, I'm Dara. I just finished making this throw size quilt. It's kind of like a super throw size. It's about 70 by 80. I made it as a get well gift for someone, and it was a pretty rush job, but I got it done. I made a video about it, so if you'd like to see what I did, keep watching and I'll show you. This quilt I made from completely upcycled materials. The back is an IKEA 100% cotton sheet, and the front is men's shirts, and then this is more sheeting for the strips, and then the binding is scrappies from the shirts. So I quilted it with two different quilting patterns. I used my bargain basement embroidery floss to get this quilting done. It took about 6 spools. So this is the pattern that I came up with for one of the squares, and this was one of the other ones for one of the blocks. Very simple quilting to try and get it done in time to gift it. I can't believe I'm going to try this. This is the first, coming up on the second week of November, and I've decided I want to try and make a Get Better quilt for someone I know who's going in for surgery in the second week of December. So I've got just under 4 weeks to get it done. I've pulled my supplies out. I want it to be throw size. So since I last did my stash, we've got another twin comforter that I've taken apart. It's really matted and torn in some places. I don't have enough of this, but I have enough of these IKEA 100% cotton sheets to be the back squares. I've decided to go quilt as you go. As much as I would like to use my new frames, I think they're going to slow me down. So, and I've pulled out my shirts and I've decided to make it really pale blues and grays. Sort of, I thought those would be soothing. And I'm also going to use my new rulers that I bought not that long ago. So I'm gonna have some blocks that will be 4 patches of this, which I think will finish at the same size as this big 12.5. So that will let me use the 12.5 to cut my backing squares. And I'm hoping I can stretch that batting to be enough squares. So the first thing I'm gonna do is cut the batting, and actually no, the first thing I'm gonna do is cut that and then fit the batting to it before I start piecing and cutting my shirts. So my math here, or my experiment, my options, a throw size is approximately 60 by 70, depending upon who you ask. And if my blocks are finishing at 12 inches, I could go 25 of them for a 60-inch square, 42 of them for a 7 by 6, or 48 for an 8 by 6, which would be 72 by 84 and 72 by 96 respectively. I'm leaning towards this one. So I'm looking for 42 12-inch, 12.5-inch out of there, and enough 42 to line it. So here I go. I can't believe I'm going to try this, but let's find out if I make it. All right, so my top sheet plus 1 pillowcase ended up giving me 42 of these 12.5-inch squares. So I'm going to call it that, which hopefully will make my throw 72 by 84. And I started cutting up my men's shirts. And for the first leg of this cutting, I'm seeing how many full squares I can get before I start doing piecing. Okay, so here is the inside of the twin comforter that I'm cutting up to reuse for batting. It's matted in some places and worn in others, but I'm just doing the best I can and taking apart the matting. And as I go, I'm keeping the the matched up squares of batting with the pin to the backing squares in this tub. So really it's just a bit of a, you know, make it work effort to get them cut and matched up. And here's all my leftovers, and there will be some patching. So I'm not sure if I'm gonna have enough, but I'm gonna keep going and then I'll check in. Okay, so I was able to get 21 12.5-inch squares in full, like without piecing. So here's my test 4 patch, and it does come out to be the exact same size, 12.5 inches, using this little square to cut. So that makes the cutting go really fast. And so to get 21 of these 4 patches, I need 84 of the 6.5 inch. And I was able to get quite a few without piecing, but I did have to piece a few. And I just decided to piece in the same fabric to keep this sort of basic 4-patch configuration visually. I didn't want to start introducing a third type of block. Okay, I've got my 21 4 patches sewn together, and now it's time to decide what to do about quilting the squares. So I took a piece of my 12 by 12 scrapbook paper to kind of do some experimenting, and I want to look for a design. I've been fiddling for a while now actually, and I was looking for a design that is fairly easy to replicate. So I'm going to be relying on my Creative Memory circle. So here's my quilt block. I folded it into 4 and pressed it with the iron to keep me on track for the center and the 4 quadrants, because this design is based on the quadrants. So I'm going to be using this chalk, and I'm going to be putting my circle. So I'm not sure if it's going to show up on the camera, but there's little non-slip pads here that are also, I'm going to be using as like bisecting the circle, so I can line them up on the creases that I've pressed in here. And I'm just going to trace. Okay, I've got this stuff that I picked up at the big sale that I went to, the yarn sale, for 10 cents a spool. And I'm gonna be trying it at full thickness just for fun to see what it looks like. And I'm hoping that this level of, basting is gonna be enough. Okay, here's my first one quilted. I got a bit of bunching because this batting from a comforter is much loftier than, say, purchased quilt batting. So I've got a bit of bunching there, but I'm gonna tolerate that. I think it looks kind of cool. I don't know if it looks too much like baseballs, but I think, once it's all together, it might be okay. I did run a line of machine basting around the edge, and that wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be, so that's going to save some time there if I can machine baste around the outside of these squares. And I'm keeping this little log here. Let's get him focused. There we go. So I'm on day 3, and I've spent just shy of 12 hours on the quilt so far. And the quilting is underway, and we all know that the hand quilting part is the slow part. But I'm keeping my fingers crossed that I'm going to make my deadline. No pressure. finished quilting all my, single piece blocks, and this is the first 4-patch I've started quilting. And I put it on pause for a day because I was starting to feel like the 2 quilting patterns would look too disjointed. And this is what they look like on the back. And I spent the day, doing other stuff and doubting myself about this and trying to decide if I should come up with a second swirly round base thing. I'm definitely tired of these baseballs. So I've decided to just go with my first plan, which is the straight line quilting, to save time, as well as because it's, I do have a deadline for this project. But I wanted to show it because, it's, I think, doubting oneself when one's working on a project like this is one of the things that causes projects to get shelved. Like when it doesn't turn out as I'm expecting it to, or something that I envisioned isn't actually materializing in real life. So, we all have those moments as crafters, and I wanted to share. One of the benefits of having a deadline is you don't have too much time to, agonize over these kinds of decisions. So, it might look a bit disjointed when all these pieces are joined together, but we're just gonna go with it, and I'll show you the end result. I'm all done quilting my quilt squares, and I just thought I would give an update. Last night I went at it for 6 hours because I was so close to being done, and I thought it would be great to be able to do my layout this morning. So far I've done the cutting and piecing. I've rounded it up to 12 hours. And the quilting is 29, so we've got 41 hours worth of sewing here. And I'm so excited to be able to do the layout. I have to say that if I was actually quilting, with any kind of density or through the same kind of batting that I used for my daughter's quilt, there's no way I would have been able to go at it for 6 hours straight. And even so, like, my fingers are really tender this morning. But I'm gonna take it upstairs and piece it now. Not piece it, gosh, Dara. I'm gonna take it upstairs and get the layout going now. Okay, here's my layout. It's meant to be a throw size, but it looks a lot bigger. I know I'm going to lose some size when I sew the squares together, but it's going to be a very generous throw size. It is quite pale, so I think I'm going to change my plans about what I'm using to join, but I have to look to see what I have for fabric. So now on to my little stickies to label it so that they stay in order when I sew them together. I've cut my first batch of strips to cover my seams on my joined quilt blocks. So I had to go back and look up my old video on my plaid quilt to get the width. It's 1 1/4 inches, and then they fold to about 5/8 of an inch, which then covers my seam, you know, in case I have a 1/2 inch, more than 1/2 inch when I'm sewing my seams. I've got my cover strips on my first row. My stickies are a little bit mismatched. One's upside down there. But I think I was originally gonna put like the light color on the back. But I think, you know, luckily I have enough of this navy sheet. I think it's gonna be nicer to break up the very muted tones of the shirt with the navy strips. Okay, I am done joining these rows and adding these strips, and that took quite a bit of time. Okay, I've got my cover strips on, and holy moly, that was hard. So the last time I used this method, it was with flannel and t-shirt material, and it, I guess it has more grip with the sheet, the cotton sheet and the shirting, slides all over the place. And the dark strips are, you know, you can see every boo-boo, every wavering seam. But it's on, they're on, I'm gonna live with it. I just wanted to show that I did baste my squares together with light thread. So in a few instances, my basting is showing on the other side. So tonight I will be, while I'm watching TV, I'll be going through and picking that out. And also you can see how difficult it was to get the strip over the middle of the seam. Pretty much every seam is, you know, off center like that. But I'm getting very close to my deadline to be able to gift this quilt, so I want to keep going. All right, binding. So this is what I have left of my offcuts. And I've worked out that I need approximately 305 or 10 inches of binding. So let's see what I can get out of these offcuts, because I would just love to use them up. Okay, well, that quilt is in the washing machine. I've been at it today for about 5.5 hours. And here's my summary. Pardon my messy writing, it's kind of late. So 12 hours to cut and piece the blocks, 29 hours to quilt the blocks individually, another 21.5 hours to sew the blocks together and do the seam covers and do the binding. So the whole quilt took me 62 hours. And the last, I'd say, 1.5 hours or so was removing my extra basting stitches and snipping all my fraying that was leaking out from underneath the cover strips.